today's video, we're going to meet up with Milan from Milan's Motorcycles and discuss his 1942 Harley Davidson XA. Let's get into it.
I'd like to introduce you to a special motorcycle what Harley Davidson built in 1942 for the US Army, and it's called Harley Davidson XA, what stands for experimental. The original contract between the government and the motor company was signed on 12th of March of 1941. The motor company got awarded to build 1,000 of these unique motorcycles. Now, what's the difference between the classic, what everyone knows probably, WLA, which was a 45 V-twin. Many of them were also built WLC for Canadian Army. But this one was experimental. It's called XA. All of them were built between January 1942. They already had a design prepared, all the molds and everything. And the assembly and production started in 1942 January. And by July, all 1,000 were built. They made few more, over 1,000. For example, Canadian Army tested 5, New Zealand tested few, Australian government tested few, but they never really went into the actual war. They did many changes during the production because it was done so quickly. There was no time to really test. And as the production was going on, the motorcycles were leaving the factory, the problems were surfacing, and the motor company started adjusting and dealing with these problems. The motorcycle, it's 45 cubic inch. It is an opposed boxer style engine, and it is actually a copy of R71 BMW. The Russians copied it also. Chinese copied the same model. Harley Davidson did their own things. I would say 99% of the parts don't fit between the different manufacturers. This engine, it's only 25 horsepower. It's a low compression engine. They started stamping them 42 XA 1000 and went up to 2000. That was the initial contract. Now we're going to have a closer look on the engine. Now the front engine cover, it's a solid aluminum cover. When you take it off, you have distributor or points. This is the first year when Harley Davidson didn't have manual setting of the advance, but it was actually automatic. It's got weights with the springs, and that was the first year, 1942. Also, the coil and the cutoff relay, it's all sitting inside of the cover. The engine, it's completely different than anything else they ever built prior to this. Classic Harley Davidson, as we still know nowadays, it's V-twin. This was experimental. It's a 45 cubic inch opposed twin or boxer style. Here is the generator. Different catalog number for this one because they did some improvements, changes in it to get a higher output out of it. The transmission, it's directly bolted to the engine. Air cleaner itself was oil bath, so they didn't have a good filtration systems in the day. It's full of steel mesh with the oil. Linkert built the carburetors, but they are different. They don't fit from any other model. They were built specifically for the XA M17R. It's the right side, and there's on the other side M17L. Now, when we look at the gas tanks, we're looking at the split tanks, but both of them are fuel. The classic 45 has an oil on the right side. Both of these have fuel. These high voltage spark plug cables are not original. They reproduction, and the whole idea is that they braided and they shielded. You see the metal shielding, right? And that was radio suppression, so there was no interference between the high voltage sparking, the radios, what they were planning to put onto the back of the luggage rack. Not a big change what they did, called H-4 type of battery. It is a 6 volt, but it's a high capacity battery. They needed to do that for the radios what they were planning to put on. Now the pickup for the speedometer, it's off of the transmission. This is the cable, goes in between the tanks and it connects to the speedometer. It is a 2-to-1 ratio. They used that style of speedometers up to 1961, but the Army speedometers were only built between about 1941 to 1945. One of the most unique things about this motorcycle, it's actual drive shaft. You can see that's the rubber coupling here, so when you shift, you don't have a direct impact into the gearing or rear wheel drive. drive. There's a rubber coupling inside. You have a U-joint here and you have a U-joint in the back underneath. These ones were custom built for the XA model only. They did move the engine a couple inches forward in 1943 and they made the drive shafts longer, but there was only a handful of them ever built. They're quite rare to see. On the right side, XA floorboard, it does not fit any other model. This is a brake pedal, rear wheel brake, and there's also foot peg. Later on, they discovered that didn't really work very well, so they removed the floorboards for 1943 models. Also, the heat off of the cylinders, they didn't have any shields starting the production. Then they found out that the heat was heating up persons or soldiers' food, so they started putting heat shields here. They were bolted to these two bolts on the cylinder heads. So now when we're looking on the exhaust, this is the right side cylinder, comes down, goes underneath, and it connects. It's sort of upswept muffler. They are special mufflers for XA. They don't fit from anything else. People think it fits from knucklehead. No, it doesn't, because the size of the pipe is different, the length is different. And we also have a crossover under the transmission, crossing over to the left side, where we have the left side exhaust header or pipe what connects to the left side muffler. Here we're looking on the right side tank. Under the tank we have a brass original petcock, or we can call that the fuel valve. This one has a built-in reserve. The reserve was only on the right side tank, right? So you had extra fuel or a little bit of fuel left when you were running out completely. Now people ask about what is this loop for? Well, that is because the vibration of the motorcycle could actually snap the tubing here on the fitting itself, right? When you put that loop, it absorbs the vibration and you're not going to have any problems of that line snapping. Fuel strainer on the bottom here. Now the unique thing is we have a glass one, so we can see we have a dirt in it, but for the Army the bowl was actually made from brass. Why did they make it from brass? You cannot see inside, because if you drop the glass one and you break it, you're not going anywhere. Brass one, if you drop it, you might make a dent in it, you put it back on and you can go again. So that was done for the Army. That was something unique and special. This line, it's a flex line what's connected to the split line what feeds both carburetors. Another quite unique thing what you probably never seen on Harley Davidson, to my knowledge, it's the kicker. It's a ratchet like any other, but it's a side kick. Totally different location, totally different way. Normally they turn 90 degrees the other way. To check the oil level, this is your oil level dipstick, and this is the transmission level dipstick. This is a shifter lever, and it is actually 4-speed transmission. Floorboard on the left side, and also the foot peg. So handlebars are different than WLA, WLC, or any of the civilian models. This is the horn switch, and this one is high and low, but it's mounted on the right side, because originally we have the gun on the right side here also, so the throttle was on the left side and it was actually backwards. So it was quite dangerous to get used to it, because all of us are used to having a throttle on the right side spinning normal direction. This one was also backwards. So majority of people, when they restore them, and I encourage them to swap it, because there was even people died because of accidents. So on this one now, because it was converted, right, so we have a throttle on the right side, we have a brake on the right side, and we have a clutch cable on the left side, and this is a solid grip now. The front wheel, it's pretty much identical to WL. That wheel was designed actually in about 1930, so it's the one with the 3/8 diameter small axle and laced the drum into the spoke. You cannot remove the drum. It's part of the wheel. 4.00 by 18-inch size of rim. Fenders are XA. They are slightly different than WLA. And now when we look at the scabbard and the machine gun, everybody knows the famous Thompson M1A1. Everybody remembers the movies Al Capone. They used to have the round magazine. This one comes with the straight clip. When we look at the lighting, first year they used sealed beam 5 3/4. You cannot replace the light bulb. You have to replace the whole sealed beam. And now we look at the blackout. Night missions when they didn't want to be seen. Ignition switch was designed to shut off the main light, main tail light, and it switched over to mode of blackout. It's a small little beam. What I was told by old guys what were in the war, they said that the blackout gave you so little light that they were running into each other. They couldn't really see anything with it, but so also the enemy couldn't see you. The horn, it's the standard military horn. We see the shield. There's an electrical terminal behind it. On the left side inside we see a box mounted on the front end, and that is actually designed and it has been used previously for ammo, called ammo box. On XA, they use the Springer front end. Now, what is the difference compared to WLA, WLC, all the other models? Well, there's a few different things. Number one, they extended it by 2 inches. Second thing is that the stem inside of the steering neck, it's 1 inch. 45s only had a 7/8. So the Springer front end was specifically built for XAs only. Steering dampener was standard on 45 models. They also used it on the XA, and it was for different terrain. Some of the parts are a little different for the XA model, but the same principle. You can tighten it, loosen it up for different terrain. If you off-road or if you on the road, and it stopped the wobble. And we look on the motorcycle, we see all these little things. That's called Zerk fitting. It was for lubrication, for the grease gun. You have various types through the motorcycle to keep it up in the good order. So when we're looking on the military dash, it's very similar to WLA. The speedometer, it's not original, it's reproduction. You have 2 lights here, one for the oil pressure if you lose the oil pressure, and the other one for charging. If your generator or some electrical system problem appears, the light will go on, so you know you're not charging. This little knob here, it's actually switch what will lighten up the speedometer, so the light was not on all the time unless you manually turn it on. Now the little cover, it's missing, but it is original switch. This little button, you push it, you gain one additional position. What that position does, it shuts off the regular lighting and it turns on the blackouts only. Now when we look at the tag here, it basically gives us recommendations of what type of oil for what temperatures, and also it gives you the spare parts listing manual and also the maintenance service manual. It gives you the part numbers for them 2 publications. When we're looking on the XA seat, it is quite different. It does not fit from WLA or any other models because it's shorter. All the other ones are quite longer. The nose, it's longer. This one is double potted in the front if it's done correctly. This one, it's original pan. It has been recovered. For additional comfort, they have a springs for the suspension. This motorcycle is the first one what Harley Davidson ever built with what they call a plunger suspension for the back wheel. They used to have rigid frames for many years, even after the war, but the XA was the first year when they put actually a plunger suspension. Some people call it this chain box, some people call it toolbox. Well, this model does not come with a chain, so obviously it was used as a toolbox. What we see mounted here on the rear guard, it's actually manual tire pump. They were equipped with the tire pump and a patch kit, so you were able to fix your flats, pump it up, and go again. Now, when we look at the rear fender, it's completely different. It is not same as WLA, WLC, or any civilian or army models. This one sits quite high above the tire. It has been extended in the front, modified, so it's a different type of fender. Also, the luggage rack, it's different. It does not fit from WLA or WLC. Now, when we look at the saddlebags, they were XA only. They put steel plates on the bottom. They were painted green to reinforce it, and they shorter type of saddlebag. These are nice reproduction what came out of Europe. So now the back wheel, also the drum, it's laced into the wheel. It's part of it. You cannot remove it unless you pull all the spokes out. XA only because that's how it's driven. There's no sprocket here. This is the rear wheel drive, what's driven by the drive shaft. The size of tires, again, what we have on it, it's 4.00-18. 18, it's the size of the rim. Now these lights are different than any civilian model. These ones were used in army. You can see there's a regular lights like this one, but also you have the blackout option. When you switch your ignition switch into blackout mode, then it shuts off and turns on the other lights. So why do I have passion for these experimental Harley Davidsons? Well, it started when I was a young kid living in Czechoslovakia under communism. I stumbled across 1942 WLC, Canadian Army, and that really changed my life. I learned how to make parts, how to rebuild engines. Eventually I got out of communism. Me and my brother skipped on WLC. We ended up in refugee camp and eventually ended up in Canada, where I lived 40 some years later. In 1986, I was living in Canada for a couple years now, and somebody took me to a swap meet in Edmonton, Alberta. An old French-Canadian soldier told me that he has one of the unique 1942 Harley Davidson XAs. I never seen it. There was no internet in the day. I didn't believe it, but I did go and see him next day. And of course, when I seen it in pieces on his garage floor, I had to have it. Within about a month or two, It was in my possession, and that's how the passion started. I was able to acquire many parts all over the world, but mainly out of United States, from a guy named Harry Molinar from Hammond, Indiana. He ended up with majority of the original parts after the World War II. And in about 1992 or 1994, I visited him, we made a deal, and I purchased all his spare parts, used, new, and even new old stock, original. He sold me everything in that building. We pulled probably 12 transmissions out of there. We pulled probably 12 engine cases out of there. All the spare parts, anything what looked, smelled, or was XA part, we pulled out. We filled up a U-Haul and we left, and we still have these parts, many of them today. Now, I was told story in about 1990s, late 80s, that as they were transporting on the ship these motorcycles, the ship got torpedoed and they sunk about 500. I just want to clarify, story sounds very good, but it is not true. Because in November 1944, Harley Davidson issued a bulletin, and they stated in it that majority of the motorcycles were never delivered to the US Army, and they were sold even during the war. They were selling them to Harley Davidson dealers and used car dealers. And in November 1944, they estimated already 800 out of the 1,000 were sold to the dealers. So the story of 500 sinking never happened. Now, what we do at Milan's Motorcycle, we specialize in this model. We remanufacture parts, we sell them, we help dozens and dozens of people all over the world to restore their unique Harley Davidson XAs. It takes two things. It takes the time and it takes money. If you have that, we'll get the parts. If we don't have the parts, we will make them or get them made. Do I think that this is the most powerful motorcycle or the best motorcycle they ever built? I would probably say it's probably one of the worst ones. But I love it the most because it's so unique and there was so few of them ever made. Like I mentioned before, we do specialize in parts. We do have original, used, or remanufactured. If we don't have it, we'll get it. This motorcycle, it's actually for sale. If anybody is interested, any parts, you can get hold of us at Milan's Motorcycles at Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for watching.
That's it for today's video. Thanks to Milan's Motorcycles. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.